Hi, I'm Julia, and welcome back to the English Talk community. I'm so glad you're here with me today because we're about to talk about something that matters to every human being: your feelings. Yes, your emotions. Whether you're happy or sad, excited or anxious, confident or unsure, your emotions are part of your life every day. And when you're learning English, one of the biggest challenges is knowing how to talk about those emotions. Maybe you felt something deeply, something strong, personal, or even painful, but you couldn't find the words. Maybe someone asked, "How are you feeling?" And all you could say was, "I'm fine," even though that wasn't true. If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. One of the most important parts of learning a new language is learning how to express what's going on inside you. Grammar and vocabulary are important, of course, but fluency isn't just about saying the right sentence. It's about saying something real. And your emotions, your true, honest feelings, are one of the most real things you can talk about. When you can say, "I'm nervous" before a job interview, or "I feel proud after finishing a project," you connect more deeply with the people around you. You're not just speaking English, you're speaking from the heart. But here's the good news. You don't need perfect grammar to describe your emotions. You don't need to memorize complicated phrases. In fact, the opposite is true. The simpler your words, the more powerful your message. You can say, "I feel tired," or "I'm a little sad today." You can say, "I'm excited," or "I feel nervous." These are short, clear, real expressions. They work. And the more you practice them, the more natural they'll sound. I know many of you feel nervous when speaking English, especially when the topic is personal. Maybe you're afraid of making a mistake. Maybe you think people won't understand you. Or maybe you think your accent will make you sound strange. But let me tell you something important. The way you feel matters. And learning to express your feelings in English isn't just a language skill, it's a life skill. When you can talk about your emotions, you build confidence, create stronger relationships, and feel more at home in English-speaking environments. I've heard from so many of you from all over the world, from people in Tokyo, Paris, Istanbul, New Delhi, and Cape Town, who all say the same thing. "I understand English, but I don't know how to express what I really feel." That's what inspired today's episode, because it doesn't matter where you come from, whether you're in a big city or a small town, whether you're a student or a professional, your feelings are real. And you deserve to be able to talk about them clearly, honestly, and with confidence. When I think about all the amazing people who listen to this podcast, people like you, I think about the courage it takes to learn a new language. It's not easy. It takes time, patience, and practice. But it also takes vulnerability. You're not just learning words and phrases. You're learning how to share your thoughts, your opinions, your needs, and yes, your feelings. That's powerful, and I want to help you do it step by step with kindness, clarity, and confidence. So let me ask you, how are you feeling today? Take a second. Don't answer with fine or good just because it's easy. Think about it. Are you feeling hopeful? Maybe a little frustrated? Are you excited to learn? Or maybe you're tired from a long day. Whatever you feel, try to put it into words. You don't have to say it out loud. Just think about it. This is the first step. The first step to speaking more naturally, more confidently, and more honestly in English. I want this space, the English Talk community, to be a place where you feel safe to try, where you feel supported, where it's okay to make mistakes. Because mistakes are part of learning, and learning is how we grow. So today, I want you to be brave. I want you to give yourself permission to feel, to speak, and to learn without fear. We're going to walk through this together. You might be surprised at how many emotions we carry with us every day, some big, some small. And the truth is, you don't always need big words to describe big feelings. You just need to know the right ones. That's what we're going to practice together in this episode. And it's not just about vocabulary. It's about connection. It's about being able to say, "I'm scared," and having someone say, "I understand." It's about saying, "I'm really happy today," and sharing that joy. Or saying, "I feel alone," and knowing that someone is listening. Language is connection, and emotions are the bridge. Now, if you're listening and thinking, "This is exactly what I need," then I want to ask you for a small favor. Please give this episode a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to this podcast. When you do that, you help more learners, people just like you, find this content. You help build this community. And more than anything, you tell yourself, yes, I'm doing this. I'm serious about learning. I'm ready. That small action is part of your growth. It tells your brain, this is important to me. And it tells me that you're here and you're ready to move forward. Sometimes people tell me they feel stuck in English. They say, I know the words, but I can't use them. Or I freeze when people ask me how I feel. And what I always say is, don't aim for perfect. Aim for honest. Don't try to sound like a native speaker. Try to sound like yourself, because your feelings are yours, your voice is yours. And when you speak from that place, simple, clear, real, you sound more natural than you think. I want you to remember that language is not just something you learn, it's something you live. And feelings are a huge part of life. So learning to describe them is one of the most important steps you can take. It gives you freedom. It gives you connection. It gives you peace of mind. And you don't need to do it all at once. You can start with just one feeling, one word, one sentence. You can say, I'm nervous but excited. That's enough. That's communication. That's English. This is going to be a powerful episode because we're not just going to talk about emotions. We're going to talk through them. We're going to look at real stories, real situations, and real solutions. I'll share examples from learners around the world who found their voice in English by learning how to name their feelings. I'll show you how simple language can create deep conversations. And I'll guide you through vocabulary that fits real life, not textbook life, but your life. You're not just learning how to speak English. You're learning how to be yourself in English. And that's one of the most beautiful parts of this journey. So wherever you are today, however you feel, thank you for being here. You are part of this community. You belong here. And we're just getting started. Let me tell you a story that stayed with me, one that speaks to something many of us go through when we're learning to express ourselves in English. Her name is Marta. She's 29, originally from Warsaw, Poland, and she works as a software designer. A few years ago, she got an incredible opportunity to move to London for a new job. It was exciting, of course, but it also came with a lot of pressure. New city, new language environment, new colleagues. Every day felt like a test, not just professionally, but personally too. On the outside, Marta seemed like she was adjusting really well. She was doing her job, attending meetings, chatting in the kitchen at work, even smiling during team lunches. But inside, things weren't so easy. She told me about one particular day, a Monday morning when everything just felt off. There had been a huge project review, and she felt like she couldn't keep up with the pace of the meeting. People were talking fast, using idioms, making jokes, and she was stuck trying to catch just the basic meaning of what was happening. By the time the meeting ended, she was completely drained. As she walked back to her desk, her colleague Tom asked, "How are you?" Just a simple, friendly question. But for Marta, it was like a spotlight had been turned on. Her heart started racing and her mind went completely blank. She wanted to say, I feel overwhelmed, or I'm frustrated, because I didn't understand what was going on in the meeting. But the only thing that came out was, I'm fine. And then she smiled, because that's what she had learned to say. That was the safe answer. But Marta wasn't fine. She was tired, stressed, and honestly, a little lonely. And the worst part was that she couldn't say it. Not because the words didn't exist, but because she didn't feel confident using them. She told me later, I knew how to say overwhelmed, but in that moment, I couldn't get the word out. I felt like my English was too small for my emotions. And that really hit me. Because I think so many learners have felt that exact same thing. That their emotions are too big for their language level. But here's what I want to say to you, and what I said to Marta. You don't need big words to express big feelings. You just need honest ones. Even something as simple as, I'm a bit anxious or I feel a little lost today, can open a door. You don't have to explain everything in perfect detail. You don't have to sound like a native speaker. You just have to try. Marta started practicing this with herself first. Every evening, she would write down one sentence about how she felt that day. Nothing long or complicated, just one line. Some days it was, I felt confused at work. Other days it was. I felt happy when someone laughed at my joke. Over time, she started to collect a small library of emotional phrases. Things like, I feel nervous when I speak in meetings. I'm a bit stressed about deadlines. I felt proud when I finished my task. I'm tired today, but I'm doing my best. These are simple sentences, but they are real. They describe what's actually going on inside. And once she got used to writing them, Marta started to say them out loud. She practiced with a friend, then with her English tutor, and slowly with her coworkers. One day, after another intense meeting, Tom asked her again, "How are you?" And this time, she didn't say, "I'm fine." She said, "I feel a bit overwhelmed. That meeting was hard to follow." Tom didn't judge her. In fact, he nodded and said, "Yeah, it was a lot. I felt the same way." And just like that, something shifted. She told me that moment gave her more confidence than any textbook exercise ever had, because she had spoken the truth in English and someone understood her. That's what communication is really about. Not just speaking, but being heard. You might think you need advanced vocabulary to talk about emotions, but that's not true. Sometimes the most powerful words are the simplest ones. I feel sad. I'm excited. I'm confused. These are all complete, clear, and human sentences. And when you use them, you don't just improve your English, you improve your connection with others. I want you to think about a time when someone asked you how you felt, and you didn't know what to say. Maybe you were at work, or in class, or with friends. Did you say "I'm fine" because you didn't know what else to say? Or maybe you didn't say anything at all. That's okay. It happens to everyone. But what if you had one or two simple phrases ready? What if you could say, "I'm a little nervous," or "I'm feeling a bit off today"? What kind of conversation would that open up? That's what Marta learned. She didn't try to sound perfect. She just tried to be honest. And that honesty gave her confidence. It gave her words. It gave her voice. So wherever you are on your English journey, I want you to remember this. Your feelings are important, and your words, however simple, are enough. You don't have to wait until your English is perfect to speak from the heart. Start with small, clear phrases. Practice them, use them, and little by little you'll find your voice. Marta's story is not just about her. It's about all of us who have felt something real and struggled to say it in English. It's about choosing clarity over perfection. It's about saying something simple and true instead of staying silent. And it's about understanding that even in a second language, you have the right to express your feelings. You don't need to be fluent to be understood. You just need to be real. Let me start this part by reminding you of something that might seem obvious, but often gets forgotten when we're learning a new language. Your goal is not to impress people with fancy vocabulary. Your goal is to be understood. That's where confidence begins. That's where connection happens. And that's why I want to talk to you today about the power of simple sentences. This is something that completely shifts the way you experience speaking English. I call it the simplicity trick, and it's one of the most effective tools you'll ever use. Now I know how tempting it can be to aim for long, complicated phrases. You want to sound advanced. You want to prove that you know the language. I've seen it in so many learners, maybe even in you. People say things like, "I feel a tremendous amount of emotional instability due to unforeseen challenges," when what they really mean is, "I'm stressed." And yes, the long version is grammatically correct. But guess what? It's also confusing, unnatural, and often hard to say in the moment. It doesn't help communication. It blocks it. Why you're speaking English, especially about your feelings, shorter sentences are your best friend. Why? Because they are easier to remember, faster to say, and more likely to be understood. Let me give you a few examples of what I mean. I feel tired. I'm excited about my new project. I'm nervous. I feel a bit down today. I'm really happy right now. I feel frustrated. These are not complex sentences. They don't use advanced vocabulary, but they are powerful. They tell the truth. They express your emotions clearly. And they work in real-life conversations. Let me tell you about a student I worked with, Ravi, a 32-year-old marketing specialist from Mumbai. When we first started talking, he was always trying to build perfect sentences. He would pause often, trying to find the right words. He would start talking, then stop and say, wait, how do I say this correctly? He wanted every sentence to sound like it came from a professional textbook. And the result? He said very little. He hesitated so much that conversations became stressful for him. So one day, I challenged Ravi. I said, for 1 week, I want you to stop trying to sound advanced. I want you to use only simple sentences when you talk about your feelings. At first, he laughed. He said, but that's too basic. And I said, basic is good, basic is clear. Try it. He started practicing things like, I feel happy today, or I'm nervous about the meeting. And he realized something interesting. People responded more. His colleagues didn't interrupt or look confused. They listened. They replied. Conversations flowed. And the best part? Ravi didn't feel stuck anymore. He felt free. He didn't need to search for the perfect word. He just said what he felt in simple English, and people understood him. Clarity is more important than complexity. If someone understands you, the conversation moves forward. If they don't, it stops. And when you try to use big words you're not comfortable with, you're more likely to freeze, to hesitate, or to say nothing at all. That's the opposite of fluency. Think about it like this. You don't need a mansion of words to express your emotions. Sometimes a small house with a strong foundation is better. If someone tells you, I'm really sad, you understand them immediately. There's no confusion, no need to ask follow-up questions. But if they say, I'm experiencing an intense emotional downturn due to recent events, you might pause and wonder what they really mean. Simple sentences don't make you sound weak or less intelligent. They make you sound clear. And that's what fluent speakers do. They focus on clarity. They say what they mean in the easiest way possible. In fact, many native speakers use very short sentences in daily conversations. It's natural. It's real. It's effective. Another learner I spoke with, Aiko from Tokyo, told me that she felt embarrassed to say things like, I'm sad or I'm nervous. She thought those words were too simple and maybe even childish. But then she spent a summer working in Vancouver and noticed something surprising. Her native English-speaking co-workers use those exact same words. I'm so tired today. I'm excited for the weekend. I feel weird about this project. They weren't using complex vocabulary. They were just being honest, and that honesty made them sound confident. So Aiko started doing the same. She replaced her long, difficult phrases with short ones. She began to feel more natural in conversations. She said, I stopped worrying about sounding smart and started focusing on sounding real. And that changed everything. Let me encourage you right now, if you've ever stopped yourself from speaking because you didn't know a complicated word, you don't need that word. You already have the most powerful words. Words like happy, sad, tired, excited, nervous, bored, frustrated, calm. These are the words people use every day. And when you say them clearly, you give your conversation partner something real to connect with. The goal of learning English isn't to create perfect, beautiful sentences. It's to communicate, to be understood, to share how you feel and what you need. If you can do that, you're already speaking fluently. Fluency is not speed. It's not complexity. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about expressing yourself clearly and confidently. Start small. Take one emotion you feel often, maybe stress, maybe happiness, and practice saying 1 or 2 simple sentences about it. I feel stressed this week. I'm really happy about my trip. Say it out loud. Say it in front of a mirror. Say it to a friend. Say it at work. The more you use it, the more natural it will become. You don't need to memorize a long list of advanced vocabulary to describe your feelings. Just start with short, clear sentences. They are powerful, they are useful, and they will help you. Build the confidence to say more over time. Every fluent speaker started with simple words. That's the foundation of all good communication. And once you embrace the simplicity trick, you'll realize how many new doors open in your English journey. Let me tell you a story about Jun, a university student from Seoul who had been studying English for a few years. He was always quiet in class, especially during group discussions. Not because he didn't have ideas, but because he felt unsure about his English. He worried about grammar, pronunciation, and especially how to express emotions. Then, one day, everything changed. Jun was assigned to present a group project, entirely in English, and he had to lead the presentation. He prepared day and night, memorizing his lines, practicing his tone, rehearsing every slide. It was a huge deal for him. The day of the presentation arrived. Jun stood in front of the classroom, his hands shaking slightly, and began to speak. His voice was clear. His English wasn't perfect, but it was confident, and it was enough. After 10 minutes, the presentation ended and the class applauded. His group members gave him a thumbs up. His professor smiled and said, "Well done." And for the first time in a long time, Jun felt something powerful, a deep, genuine sense of pride. He had done something hard, something new, something he didn't think he could do, and he did it in English. After class, one of his classmates walked up to him and asked, "How do you feel?" Jun smiled and said, "I feel good." That was it. Just good. And that moment stuck with him, because inside, he felt so much more than just good. He felt proud, relieved, excited, but he didn't know how to say it. He had no words to match what he truly felt. That moment made him realize that learning how to express positive emotions in English was just as important as knowing grammar or vocabulary. This is something I see often. So many English learners get used to saying, "I'm good," or "it's okay," or "I'm fine," even when they feel something much deeper. And I understand why. Those are the safe words. They're easy, familiar, and we use them all the time. But happiness, pride, excitement, those feelings deserve better. They deserve more than just good. So let's talk about how we can expand your vocabulary to describe positive emotions more clearly. Let's start with proud. It's such a powerful word. Saying "I'm proud" means you're recognizing your own success. It means you see your effort, your growth, your courage. And you don't need a special occasion to say it. You can say it after a small win, like finishing a task, or after a big step, like speaking English in front of a group. Imagine Jun saying, "I'm really proud of myself for presenting today." That sentence tells a whole story in just a few words. Another word that fits moments like this is relieved. This is what you feel when a stressful situation ends. You study for an exam, and when it's over, you feel lighter. That's relief. Saying "I feel relieved" tells the person listening that something difficult has passed. It helps them understand what you went through. Then there's excited. I love this word because it's full of energy. It means you're looking forward to something, or you feel happy about what just happened. Instead of saying "I'm good," you could say "I'm excited about what's next," or "I feel excited that I did something new." These sentences are real. They reflect your emotions honestly. We also have phrases that add richness to your expressions. You can say, "I'm really proud of myself," like we mentioned, or "I'm so happy with how things went." Another great one is, "I didn't expect to feel this good, but I'm glad I tried." These are simple phrases, but they communicate a lot. They help you open up. They make conversations deeper. Jun later told me that after his experience, he started learning more words to describe his feelings. The next time someone asked him how he felt, he didn't say "good." He said, "I feel really proud. I worked hard, and it went better than I expected." That sentence gave the listener more. It invited a conversation. It created connection. And more than that, it made Jun feel more in control of his English. He wasn't just reacting. He was expressing himself. If you've ever felt like "good" or "fine" doesn't say enough, trust that instinct, because it doesn't. And your happiness deserves more space. When you learn to describe it with clear words, you keep that emotion alive. You give it value. You honor it. Here are a few more expressions you can try. I'm feeling really proud of what I accomplished. I'm so relieved it's over. I'm excited about this new opportunity. I feel so happy right now. I'm grateful for how everything worked out. Try saying these out loud. Say them when you finish something hard. Say them when you surprise yourself. Say them even if no one's around, just to practice. The more you say them, the more natural they'll become. And then when someone asks you, "How do you feel?" You'll have the words ready. You won't have to settle for good. This is part of building emotional fluency. Not just using words, but choosing the ones that match your heart. It's not about sounding perfect. It's about sounding real. And when your words match your feelings, your confidence grows. People connect with you more, and you begin to feel like English isn't just something you study. It's something you live. I want you to think about the last time you felt proud of yourself in English. Maybe you joined a conversation. Maybe you understood something new. Maybe you didn't give up, even when it was hard. How did you feel in that moment? Can you describe it now? Could you say, "I'm really proud of how far I've come"? That's the kind of sentence that stays with you. That's the kind of sentence that builds your voice. Remember, words like proud, relieved, and excited aren't advanced. They're available to you right now. You don't need a perfect accent or a long sentence. You just need to speak honestly. That's the heart of communication. That's how June turned a moment of silence into a moment of strength. And you can too. Let's talk about something that many people avoid, especially when learning a new language: sadness. I know it's not the most cheerful topic, but it's real, it's human. And the truth is, sadness is a part of life, just like joy, excitement, or pride. I'm Julia, and today I want to talk to you about the power of being honest about how you feel, even when those feelings aren't easy to describe. Because the moment you learn how to say, "I'm feeling low," or "I'm disappointed," in English, you're not just improving your vocabulary, you're opening the door to real connection. I've met so many learners over the years who feel pressure to sound happy or confident all the time in English. They avoid talking about anything emotional or vulnerable, and I understand why. It can feel risky. When your words aren't perfect, expressing feelings like sadness or disappointment can feel even harder. But I want to tell you something important. You don't have to be perfect to be understood. You just need to be real. And real conversations often include difficult emotions. Let me share an example. I once spoke with a young man named Matteo, a graphic designer from Milan. He had recently moved to Toronto to work at a startup. At first, everything felt new and exciting, but a few weeks in, he started to feel isolated. His colleagues were friendly, but they spoke fast. He didn't always catch the jokes. He missed his family, the food, his language, and when someone asked him how he was doing, he always smiled and said, "I'm okay." But inside, he wasn't. One day during lunch, a coworker asked again, "How's everything going?" Matteo hesitated, then finally said, "Actually, I feel a little sad today." That simple sentence changed everything. His coworker nodded and replied, "Yeah, I remember when I first moved here, it was hard." They started talking, not just about work, but about the challenges of being in a new place. That moment of honesty opened a door. Matteo later told me that using the word sad helped him feel more connected to the people around him. He wasn't pretending anymore. He was being honest. Saying "I feel sad" isn't a weakness, it's an act of courage. And in English, it's one of the most powerful tools you can learn. Because when you can name how you feel, you give others permission to be honest too. Let's talk about how to describe these emotions in simple, natural English. Start with phrases like "I feel sad" or "I'm feeling down." These are basic, but meaningful. You can also say, "I'm a bit upset," or "I'm feeling a little low today." These expressions are gentle, but honest. They don't sound dramatic. They just sound human. Another important word is disappointed. This is what you feel when something doesn't go the way you hoped. Maybe you studied hard for an exam, but the result wasn't what you expected. You can say, "I'm disappointed with my score." Or maybe you planned to go out with friends, but they canceled last minute. You can say, "I was really looking forward to it, so I feel a little disappointed." These sentences are clear and show how much something mattered to you. There's also frustrated. This is a strong word, but useful. You can use it when you try something and it doesn't work. Like when you're speaking English and people don't understand you. You might say, "I feel frustrated because I can't explain myself the way I want to." That's a real feeling. And when you say it out loud, you give yourself a little space to breathe. You stop pretending and start connecting. We often think we have to be strong by staying silent, but real strength comes from being able to say what's true, even if that truth is, I'm not okay right now. One learner I know, Amina, a teacher from Cairo, once told me that she felt like she had to smile every time she spoke English, just to hide how anxious she felt. But then, during a conversation class, she said, I get really nervous when I speak English in a group. And something amazing happened. Other people nodded. They said, me too. That moment changed the energy in the room. The conversation became more open, more supportive, and Amina started to feel less alone. Sometimes we think that by hiding our feelings, we're protecting ourselves. But in reality, we're just creating distance. Learning to say, I feel nervous, or I'm sad today, helps people understand you. And when people understand you, you feel safer. You feel seen. You don't have to share everything, but you can choose small, honest moments, and you don't have to make them heavy. For example, you can say, I'm feeling a bit off today, or it's just one of those days. These are soft ways to express sadness or low energy. They're not dramatic, but they're real. Try saying these out loud. I feel a little sad today. I'm disappointed because I worked hard. I'm frustrated. I want to do better. I just feel off today. Not sure why. I feel lonely sometimes, especially in new places. These sentences are short. They're not complicated, but they carry meaning. And when you practice them, they'll start to feel natural. You'll be able to use them in real conversations, just like Matteo, just like Amina. You don't need to hide your emotions to be a good English speaker. In fact, the more you practice expressing them, the more natural your English will sound. Emotions are part of real communication, and when you use them, people listen. So if you've ever felt that saying, I'm fine, wasn't the full truth, give yourself permission to say something more honest next time, even if it's just a little more. Because every time you do, you grow, not just in English, but as a communicator, as a person. And I want you to remember something. Sadness doesn't mean failure. It means you care. It means something matters to you. And learning how to express that in English is part of becoming fluent, not just in language, but in life. Let's take a moment to talk about a phrase you've probably used many times. I'm okay. It's short. It's simple. And it's one of the most common replies when someone asks, how are you? But here's the thing. This phrase carries more emotional weight and meaning than it might seem. Depending on how you say it, when you say it, and even who you're saying it to, I'm okay can mean completely different things. And if you're learning English, this can be confusing. So today, I want to help you understand the power of context. Because in English, meaning is not just about the words. It's about how you use them. I'm Julia. And in this episode, I want to help you become more confident in using small phrases in big ways. I'm okay is a perfect example. On the surface, it's a neutral, safe response. You're not saying you're happy, but you're not saying you're unhappy either. But let's be honest. How many times have you said, I'm okay, when you weren't? I know I have. And I'm guessing you have too. The truth is, this little phrase can carry a lot of unspoken emotion. That's why it's so important to learn not just what to say, but how to say it. Because communication in English, or any language, is not just about vocabulary. It's about connection. And that connection often depends on your tone, your body language, and the situation you're in. Let me give you an example. I once met a young woman named Elisa from Madrid. She was working in Amsterdam and learning English to help her in her marketing job. She told me a story about a time when she wasn't feeling great. She had a bad headache and was feeling stressed about a deadline. Her coworker asked, Are you okay? And she replied, I'm okay, but in a flat, tired voice. Her coworker paused, looked at her, and said, Are you sure? That's when she realized that the tone of her voice had given her real feelings away. She hadn't meant to lie. She just didn't have the right words at that moment, but the tone of I'm okay was enough to say, I'm struggling. That's the power of context. Let's look at 3 very different ways this phrase can sound, happy and upbeat. Imagine someone smiles, makes eye contact, and says, I'm okay, with a positive tone. In this context, they might actually mean, I'm doing pretty well. Maybe not amazing, but fine. You can hear the energy in their voice, flat and low energy. Now picture someone with no smile, no eye contact, and a soft voice saying, I'm okay. Here, it might mean the opposite. It could mean, I don't want to talk about it, or I'm not doing great, but I don't know how to say it. Defensive or distant. If someone says, I'm okay, with a sharp or tense tone, they may be feeling annoyed, hurt, or angry. Maybe they don't want to be bothered. In this case, I'm okay might actually mean, please stop asking. All of these are, I'm okay. The words don't change, but the feeling behind them changes everything. And that's why learning tone and emotional context is so important in English. So how can you start to use this phrase more naturally and more clearly? First, pay attention to your own feelings before you speak. Ask yourself, what do I really mean when I say, I'm okay? Am I trying to avoid the question? Am I really fine? Am I hoping someone will ask again? Getting clear with yourself helps you use the phrase in a more meaningful way. Second, practice changing your tone. Try saying I'm okay in 3 different ways: happy, tired, and annoyed. Listen to your own voice. Notice how different the same words can sound. This is a great way to build emotional fluency, not just language fluency. Third, learn to add a little more. If you want to express something more clearly but still keep it simple, you can add a small phrase. For example, I'm okay, just a little tired. I'm okay, but it's been a long day. I'm okay, thanks for asking. Each one adds a layer of meaning. You don't need long, complicated sentences to be clear. Just a few extra words can help others understand you better. And finally, be aware of the situation. Context means what's happening around you. Are you at work? With close friends? Talking to someone you don't know very well? The setting matters. In a professional setting, I'm okay might be the safe choice. In a personal setting, maybe with a friend or a classmate you trust, you might want to be more open. Let me tell you about another learner, Rajiv, a student from Mumbai who moved to Dublin for graduate school. He told me that he often said, I'm okay, when people asked him how he was, even when he was having a really hard time adjusting. One day, his professor noticed something in his tone and said, if you ever need support, just let me know. That simple moment helped Rajiv realize that tone speaks. He didn't have to share every detail, but he also didn't have to hide behind the words. Sometimes, learning English feels like learning 2 things at once: what to say and how to say it. That's okay, it takes time. But the more you notice these little things, tone, timing, body, language, the more confident you become. And when you start to feel confident, your English stops sounding like memorized phrases and starts sounding like you. Even something as small as I'm okay can become a powerful tool. You don't have to be dramatic, you just have to be honest. A calm, I'm okay, just a little stressed can lead to support. A gentle, I'm okay, but I could use a break can lead to understanding. And a warm, I'm okay, thanks for asking can create connection, so keep practicing. Try using I'm okay in different tones and see how it feels. Think about what you want to express, not just the words. And remember, your goal isn't to sound perfect, it's to be understood. It's to be real. And you can do that, even with 3 little words. Let's talk about frustration. It's one of those emotions we all feel, but we don't always know how to talk about, especially in a second language. You might not even realize how often frustration shows up in daily life. It's in the little things, like waiting in line too long, missing a bus, or trying to understand fast instructions in a new place. And when we don't know how to describe what we're feeling, it builds up. It gets stuck inside. That's what happened to David, and I want to share his story with you because it's one I think many of us can relate to. David is a 26-year-old design student from Berlin. He got an internship at a creative agency in New York, a dream opportunity. He was excited, of course, but also nervous. Everything felt new. The subway system, the way people spoke, the speed of the city. It all felt like too much at times. One afternoon, he had to go to a client meeting by himself. His manager gave him the address and said, "It's easy, just take the F train." But David wasn't familiar with the subway yet. He got lost. He missed the meeting. Then he had trouble understanding how to reset his building pass when he returned. And later, when someone at the office casually asked, "How was your day?" David just smiled and said, "It was fine." But it wasn't. He was frustrated, tired, and overwhelmed. He told me later that he didn't say anything because he didn't know how. Not just in English, but emotionally. He didn't want to sound negative. He didn't want people to think he was complaining, so he kept it all in. But the problem with frustration is that it doesn't go away when we ignore it. It stays in the background, making everything harder. That's why it's so important to have simple, honest ways to express it, especially when you're learning a new language. So let's start with one of the most useful phrases you can learn. I feel frustrated. It's short, it's direct, and it tells the truth. You can use it when something isn't working, when you feel stuck, or when things don't go the way you expected. You don't need to explain everything. Just saying, "I feel frustrated," can help you release some of that pressure. Another helpful phrase is, "This is confusing." It works in so many situations, when instructions aren't clear, when someone speaks too fast, or when a system is unfamiliar. Imagine you're filling out a form in English and you don't understand what one of the questions means. You can say, "This is confusing. Can you help me?" It's polite, clear, and honest. People usually appreciate it when you're open like that. It helps them help you. You can also use "I'm annoyed." This one is a little stronger, so use it carefully. "I'm annoyed" works when something keeps happening that bothers you, like noise, interruptions, or delays. For example, if someone is speaking loudly on the phone next to you while you're trying to work, you might think, "I'm annoyed." If you want to express it out loud in a softer way, you can say, "That's a bit annoying." This keeps the tone friendly while still telling the truth. Here are a few more phrases that can help you talk about everyday frustration. I don't get it. This doesn't make sense. I need a moment to figure this out. I'm trying, but this is hard. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. These are all ways to give your feelings a voice. And when you give them a voice, you take away their power to stress you out in silence. That's something David learned over time. After a few weeks, he started practicing small phrases with his team. He began saying things like, "Sorry, I didn't catch that," or "Can you explain that again? I'm still figuring it out." He even started saying, "Today was frustrating," without apologizing for it. And you know what? People respected that. No one thought he was weak or negative. They just saw someone being real. Frustration isn't just about the language barrier. It's also about the pressure we put on ourselves. We want to get things right. We want to sound smart. We want to be seen as capable. But part of being capable is being honest. And being honest means saying, "I'm struggling right now, and that's okay." When you learn how to express frustration in English, you give yourself permission to slow down, to ask for help, to say, "This is hard for me," without shame. That's not just good for your language skills. It's good for your mental health, too. Sometimes we think we need to be positive all the time in English. That's especially common for people learning the language. You want to be polite, kind, friendly, and that's great. But there's a difference between being polite and pretending. You can be polite and still tell the truth. You can say, "This situation is a little frustrating, but I'm working on it." That shows confidence, not weakness. Let's go back to David. A few months into his internship, he was asked to help onboard a new intern from Tokyo named Sora. Sora was quiet, like David had been at first. One day, Sora was clearly struggling with a new software system. David noticed and said, "It's okay to say this is confusing. I used to feel the same way." That simple sentence changed everything. Sora smiled and said, "Yes, it's very confusing." They laughed, and the stress melted a little. David realized that sharing your feelings doesn't just help you, it helps others feel safe too. That's the power of expressing frustration. It builds connection. It says, "I'm human, just like you." So if you're feeling frustrated today, whether it's with grammar, with pronunciation, with finding the right words, know that you can say that. Say, "This is frustrating, but I'm learning." Say, "I don't get it yet, but I will." These are simple, powerful things to say and they bring you one step closer to fluency, not just in English, but in life. Let's talk about a phrase that many English learners skip over, but that native speakers use all the time. I feel like this structure is incredibly powerful because it helps you express complex or changing emotions. It's especially useful when your feelings aren't black or white, happy or sad, calm or angry, but somewhere in between. And trust me, most of our emotions live in that in-between space. Think about how often we go through the day carrying mixed emotions. You might feel excited and nervous at the same time, or proud and unsure, or motivated but overwhelmed. When someone asks, "How are you feeling?" it's tempting to say something simple like, "I'm okay" or "I'm tired." But those answers don't always tell the full story. That's where "I feel like" comes in. This phrase gives you a way to connect your emotions with your thoughts, and it makes your English sound more natural, more real, and more human. Let me show you how it works. Let's start with a simple example. I feel like giving up. This isn't something we say all the time, but when we do, it expresses something deep. You're not just saying you're tired. You're saying you've hit a point where continuing feels difficult. It's a mix of frustration, exhaustion, and doubt. And using "I feel like" helps you share that emotional mix in a way that's still understandable. Now listen to this. I feel like I'm not making progress. Have you ever felt that way while learning English? I know I have felt it in my own learning experiences. When we work hard but the results feel slow, it's easy to get discouraged. This phrase gives you a voice in that moment. It's more honest than just saying "I'm frustrated" or "I'm stuck." It gives the person listening a window into your personal experience. There's something very freeing about that. You don't have to explain every little detail. You can just say, "I feel like I'm falling behind," or "I feel like I keep making the same mistakes." And people will understand not only what you're going through, but how much it matters to you. Let me tell you about Rina, a graduate student from Jakarta. She moved to Toronto for her PhD program and had been studying English for years. But when it came to speaking in academic discussions, she often felt unsure. She was doing well in her classes, writing strong essays, passing her exams, but every time she had to join a group discussion, she hesitated. One day, her advisor asked if everything was okay, and instead of saying, "I'm fine," Rina decided to be honest. She said, "I feel like I'm not really part of the conversation." That sentence opened up a whole new level of communication. Her advisor understood what she meant, not just that she was struggling, but that she felt disconnected. That small phrase helped her express something very personal in a simple way. That's why I encourage you to practice using "I feel like" in your own conversations. You can use it to talk about emotional states, but also about thoughts and perceptions. For example, "I feel like people don't understand me." "I feel like I'm always nervous when I speak." "I feel like I'm finally starting to improve." "I feel like today is going to be a good day." "I feel like no one noticed my effort." Each of these sentences shows a feeling connected to a situation. It helps the person listening understand what you're experiencing from your point of view, and it adds depth to your communication. Sometimes learners ask me, "Can I say that even if it's not a strong emotion?" The answer is yes. I feel like is for strong emotions, quiet emotions, confusing emotions. It works for all of them. It's about what's true for you in that moment. It also helps with self-reflection. When you say, "I feel like I'm always behind," you might pause and think, "Am I really always behind? Or is that just how I feel today?" That awareness can change the way you talk to yourself, and eventually, the way you learn. Instead of judging yourself harshly, you start naming the emotions and understanding where they come from. It's also useful when you want to check in with someone else. For example, if a friend seems distant, you can say, "I feel like something's bothering you. Do you want to talk?" It's a soft, kind way to open a conversation. You're not accusing, you're expressing a feeling and inviting a response. Or imagine you're in a meeting and your idea wasn't accepted. You might say, "I feel like my opinion didn't come across clearly." That opens the door for someone to respond, to ask questions, or to clarify. It keeps the communication alive and respectful, even when emotions are involved. Another example I love is, I feel like I'm just going through the motions. That phrase captures what a lot of us feel during stressful or repetitive times. It means you're doing things but not feeling connected to them. That's a deep emotion, and it can be hard to explain in another language. But this phrase makes it possible. Even positive emotions work well with, I feel like, think about these. I feel like I'm getting stronger. I feel like I'm finally enjoying English. I feel like this is where I'm meant to be. I feel like I've grown a lot. These are beautiful things to say, and they're completely natural in English. When you say them, people listen, not just to your words, but to your heart behind the words. That's the magic of, I feel like. It gives emotion a shape, it gives thought a rhythm, and it gives you, as a learner, the power to connect more deeply, not just with others, but with yourself. If you're not sure how to start, try this simple exercise. Think of one emotion you've felt today. Maybe you were tired or hopeful or uncertain. Now finish the sentence. I feel like, and see what comes out. Maybe it's, I feel like today is too much, or I feel like I'm doing okay. Whatever it is, just say it out loud. Practice it. Let it be real. Language is not just about words. It's about connection. And I feel like helps you build that bridge between thoughts and speech, between emotion and understanding, between you and the people around you. So the next time someone asks how you feel, go beyond fine. Use your voice. Tell your truth. Let your English reflect your real life. Let me tell you a story about Amina. She's a young entrepreneur from Nairobi, full of ideas and ambition. A few months ago, she received an email that changed everything. She had been accepted into a startup accelerator program in Tokyo, a dream opportunity for her business. When she saw the message, her heart started racing, her hands were shaking, and she almost couldn't believe it. It was the kind of moment where your life suddenly shifts, where all your hard work starts to make sense. But when she called her mentor to share the news, all she could say in English was, I'm happy. That word didn't even come close to what she was feeling. Amina's story is one that many English learners can relate to. You go through something amazing, something exciting, and suddenly your words feel too small. You want to shout, to celebrate, to tell the world, but happy or good just don't capture your energy. That's why today I want to help you grow your vocabulary to describe excitement. Not just to sound more fluent, but to feel more free when you speak. When something great happens, the phrase, I'm so excited, is simple, but powerful. Don't underestimate it. I'm so excited is a full sentence. It's natural, emotional, and used by native speakers all the time. You don't need big or fancy words to express joy. Just putting the right feeling behind your sentence makes it work. You can say, I'm so excited about my trip, or I'm so excited to start this new job. Let your voice match your mood. That's what makes it feel real. Then there's, I can't wait. This is one of my favorite expressions. It shows that you're looking forward to something with energy and anticipation. You might say, I can't wait to meet the team, or I can't wait to try the food in Tokyo. It's casual, it's emotional, and it adds a spark to your sentence. Amina practiced saying this before her trip. I can't wait to meet the other entrepreneurs, she told me during one of our calls. And I could hear the energy in her voice finally matching the excitement in her heart. Another expression that helps express deep personal joy is, this means a lot to me. It's not loud or dramatic, but it's full of meaning. It shows that something matters on a personal level. When Amina stood in front of her new team in Tokyo, she introduced herself and said, being here means a lot to me. That small sentence created connection. It helped people understand that this wasn't just a trip, it was a big step in her journey. This phrase works in many situations, from achievements at work to meaningful personal moments. You can use it when someone supports you, or when you reach a goal that you've been working toward for a long time. Let's look at a few more expressions that help describe excitement in different ways. You can say, I'm thrilled, which is a stronger version of excited. It's a little more formal, but still very common. Amina used this in an email to thank the organizers of the Accelerator program. She wrote, "I'm thrilled to be part of this journey." It sounds professional, but still personal. You can also say, "I'm over the moon." This one is more creative, almost poetic. It paints a picture of someone so happy they feel like they're flying. It's great for sharing news with friends. For example, "I'm over the moon about this opportunity," or "We're over the moon about the results." It's full of life and color. Another one I love is "I'm pumped." It's very casual, usually used in sports or high-energy situations. Think of someone just before a big game or a big presentation. You can say, "I'm pumped for the event," or "I'm really pumped about the launch." It's quick, fun, and very native. If you want to describe excitement with a little more emotion, try "I'm deeply grateful." This doesn't just say you're happy, it says you appreciate the moment. Amina told me that after her first pitch presentation in Tokyo, she said, "I'm deeply grateful for this chance to grow." It was calm, but powerful. It showed her heart, not just her words. Sometimes excitement can be quiet. You don't have to shout or use big gestures. You can say, "This is really special to me," or "I've been dreaming about this for a long time." These phrases are soft, but honest. They help you express excitement in a sincere and meaningful way. I always tell my students that emotion doesn't come from big words. It comes from true words. A simple sentence, spoken with real feeling, is much more powerful than something complicated or memorized. You don't need to impress people with vocabulary. You just need to share your moment. Amina worked hard to find the right words for her feelings. She practiced saying things like, "I'm looking forward to meeting everyone," or "This experience is a dream come true." She even practiced saying, "I'm nervous but also really excited," because mixed feelings are normal too. And the more she practiced, the more confident she became, not just in English, but in herself. That's something I want you to take with you. When something amazing happens in your life, don't hide it behind a simple, "I'm good." Let people see your joy. Say, "I'm so happy," or "I've been waiting for this." Use your words to celebrate your wins. You earned them. You deserve to express them. Try making a list of your own excited sentences. Think about something you're looking forward to. Maybe it's an upcoming trip, a class, a project, or even just seeing someone you care about. Now try saying, "I'm so excited." "I can't wait." "This means a lot to me." "I'm thrilled." "I'm over the moon." "I'm really pumped." "I'm deeply grateful." "This is so special to me." "I've been looking forward to this for weeks." "I'm ready and excited for what's next." These are not just phrases to memorize. They are tools to help you live your English, to feel it, to let it match what's really going on inside you. The more you use them, the more they become part of your real voice. Not a perfect voice, but an honest human one. And that's where true fluency begins. When I first started learning English, one of the biggest challenges I faced was finding the right words to express what I was feeling. You know, emotions are not always easy to put into words, especially in a language that's not your mother tongue. But over time, I realized that building a good emotional vocabulary doesn't happen overnight. It's a step-by-step process, and it's perfectly okay to take your time. Today, I want to share with you a simple method that has helped many learners, including myself, grow their emotional vocabulary in a natural and manageable way. The first thing I want you to understand is that you don't need to learn dozens of new words at once. Trying to memorize 50 or 100 feeling words in one day is overwhelming and not very effective. Instead, focus on learning 5 useful words a week. 5 words might seem like a small number, but if you do this consistently, week after week, your vocabulary will grow steadily, and the new words will really stick with you because you're using them in your life. Now, how do you choose those 5 words? I suggest picking words that are relevant to your daily experiences. For example, maybe today you felt happy, tired, or a little frustrated. Try to find the English words that best match those feelings. This way, the words become connected to real moments, making them easier to remember and use later. You can start with simple words like happy, sad, angry, excited, and nervous. Then, as you feel more comfortable, you can add more specific words like disappointed, relieved, proud, or anxious. One of the best tools to help you with this process is something I call a feelings journal. It's a simple notebook or digital document where you write about your emotions and experiences every day. Don't worry about writing long sentences or perfect grammar. The goal is just to connect your feelings to words in English. For example, you might write, "Today I felt tired after work," or "I was nervous before my meeting." Over time, you'll notice patterns and you'll start to recognize which words describe your feelings most often. The feelings journal is powerful because it makes your learning active and personal. When you write about your own life, your brain links the language to real emotions, which helps you remember better. Plus, when you look back at your journal after a few weeks, you'll see your progress and your growing vocabulary. It's motivating to see how far you've come. Here's another tip. When you learn a new feeling word, try to practice it out loud. Say the word in sentences that reflect your experiences. For example, if you learn the word anxious, say, "I felt anxious before the presentation," or "Sometimes I feel anxious about speaking English." Practicing out loud helps with pronunciation and makes the words feel more natural in your speech. You can also use your journal to write about the feelings of other people, maybe from stories you've heard or movies you've watched. For example, if a character in a movie felt disappointed, try to write, "She felt disappointed because the trip was canceled." This expands your vocabulary by connecting words to different situations, not just your own. Another way to build your emotional vocabulary is to read and listen to English content focused on feelings. Books, podcasts, and even songs often describe emotions in many different ways. When you find a word or phrase that seems useful or interesting, write it down in your journal and try to use it in your own sentences. Don't worry if you don't understand every word at first. Focus on the context and how the emotion is expressed. Remember, language learning is not about perfection. It's about communication and connection. Sometimes you won't find the perfect word right away, and that's okay. Using simple sentences like, "I feel happy," or "I'm a bit tired," is always better than saying nothing at all. But as your vocabulary grows, you'll find it easier to add color and detail to your feelings. Also, keep in mind that feelings are complex. You might feel more than one thing at the same time, or your emotions might change during the day. Your feelings journal is a safe space to explore all those emotions without judgment. It's your personal place to practice and express yourself. If you want to make this process even more fun, you can try to connect your feelings words with colors, images, or even drawings. Sometimes associating a word with a picture or a color helps your brain remember it better. For example, you might color happy with yellow, calm with blue, and angry with red. This kind of creative learning works for many people. 1. Last thing I want to share is that practicing your emotional vocabulary also helps you understand others better. When you hear someone say, "I'm frustrated," or "I feel proud," you'll know exactly what they mean, and you can respond with empathy. It makes your conversations more meaningful and deep. So, start small. Pick 5 words this week that describe how you feel. Write them in your journal. Practice using them in sentences about your day or stories you've heard. Speak them out loud. Add drawings or colors if you like. Then next week, add 5 more. Keep doing this little by little, and you'll see how your ability to talk about your feelings in English grows naturally and confidently. This step-by-step approach removes the pressure and makes learning emotional vocabulary part of your everyday life. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to rush. You just have to keep practicing. And with time, you'll notice that expressing your feelings in English becomes easier, more natural, and even enjoyable. When we learn to talk about feelings in English, it's natural to focus on our own emotions first. After all, expressing how we feel helps us communicate clearly and connect with others. But there's another very important skill that sometimes gets overlooked, especially by language learners, and that is showing empathy, talking about and understanding other people's feelings. Today, I want to help you develop this skill because it makes your English conversations more meaningful and your relationships deeper. Showing empathy means recognizing and responding to what someone else is feeling. It's about listening with care and using words that show you understand or support their emotions. In English, we have many simple but powerful phrases to do this. I want to share some of the most useful ones with you and explain how and when to use them, so you feel confident responding to friends, colleagues, or anyone you meet. Let's start with a very common and friendly phrase. "That sounds tough." You can use this when someone is telling you about a difficult situation or challenge they're going through. Imagine your coworker from Paris tells you that they had a long day at work because their computer crashed and they lost some important files. You can say, "That sounds tough." It shows that you acknowledge their difficulty without needing to say a lot. It's a short, kind way to show empathy, and it invites the other person to keep talking if they want to. Another great phrase to use when someone shares good news or an achievement is, "I'm happy for you." It's simple but sincere, and lets the other person know you care about their success or joy. For example, if your friend from Mumbai says, "I just got accepted into my dream university," you can respond with, "I'm happy for you." These words build positive connections and encourage people to share more about their feelings. Sometimes people might share something emotional or personal, and you want to let them know you understand their feelings. A very effective phrase for this is, "I understand how you feel." This shows you're not just hearing the words, but you're also emotionally connecting with their experience. For instance, if a colleague from Rome talks about feeling nervous before a big presentation, you could say, "I understand how you feel. I get nervous too." This shared understanding can make a conversation feel warm and supportive. When using these phrases, it's important to say them with genuine tone and a friendly attitude. You don't need to be perfect with pronunciation. Your kindness and attention are what really matter. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel to respond this way. Let's break down these phrases with some simple examples you can try in your own conversations. If someone says, "I have a lot of work this week and I'm really tired," you can respond with, "That sounds tough. Make sure to take some breaks." This shows you understand their situation and care about their well-being. If a friend says, "I passed my driving test today," you can say, "I'm happy for you. That's a big achievement." This celebrates their success and shares their happiness. If someone mentions, "I felt very nervous before my interview," you might say, "I understand how you feel. I feel the same way before big events." This creates a connection and shows empathy. Another way to show empathy is by asking follow-up questions after using these phrases. For example, after saying, "That sounds tough," you can ask, "Do you want to talk more about it?" Or, "How are you coping?" These questions show you're interested and ready to listen. It's a great way to keep the conversation going and help the other person feel supported. It's also useful to remember that body language and facial expressions play a big role when showing empathy, even if you're speaking English online or on the phone. Smiling gently, nodding, or simply maintaining eye contact, if possible, helps show you care. When you combine kind words with warm gestures, your message of empathy is even stronger. Sometimes you might not know exactly what to say, and that's okay. You can use simple expressions like, "I'm sorry to hear that," when someone shares sad news. For example, if your friend from Tokyo says, "My flight was canceled and I'm stuck at the airport," you can say, "I'm sorry to hear that. That must be frustrating." This shows sympathy and helps the person feel heard. Remember, empathy is not just about words, it's about your intention. When you speak English, your goal is to connect and support others, even if your language skills are still growing. The more you practice these phrases, the more natural and confident you will become at showing empathy in your conversations. Try to notice moments in your daily life when someone is sharing feelings or experiences, whether in person, on social media, or even in movies or podcasts. Practice saying phrases like, "That sounds tough," "I'm happy for you," or "I understand how you feel" quietly to yourself or out loud. The more you repeat them, the easier they will come to mind when you need them. I encourage you to add these empathetic phrases to your feelings journal. Write down situations where you heard or used them and how the other person reacted. This reflection helps you see how important empathy is in communication and helps you improve your own skills. Showing empathy in English doesn't require fancy vocabulary or complicated grammar. It's about using simple, clear phrases with kindness and sincerity. It's a skill that builds trust and deepens relationships, no matter where you are in the world. So next time someone shares something with you, whether good or bad, try using these phrases. Notice how the conversation feels warmer and more connected. Remember, learning English is not just about words and grammar. It's about connecting hearts and minds. And showing empathy is one of the most beautiful ways to do that. When we talk about feelings, sometimes the most honest and real emotions are those of uncertainty. I want to share with you today the story of Karim, a young architecture student from Cairo who moved to Toronto to continue his studies. Karim is someone many of you might relate to because he faced moments when he didn't have clear answers about how he felt, especially after challenging experiences. This kind of emotional uncertainty can feel confusing or frustrating, especially when you want to express yourself clearly in English. Karim remembers one day after a particularly difficult exam. He sat with a friend and was asked how he felt about it. Karim looked down and said, "I don't know how I feel." That short sentence is full of meaning. It shows that sometimes feelings are not simple or easy to explain. We can feel many things at once, or we might just be unsure. The good news is that English has simple phrases you can use to express that uncertainty honestly, and you don't have to force yourself to pick just one feeling if that's not how you really feel. 1. Of the most useful phrases to express uncertainty is, "I'm not sure." You can use it anytime you feel doubt about your emotions or decisions. For example, Karim might say, "I'm not sure if I did well on the exam," or "I'm not sure how I feel about the results." This phrase is very natural in everyday English and shows that it's okay to be uncertain. Sometimes, just admitting that you're not sure can make you feel less pressure and more comfortable sharing your thoughts. Another phrase Karim learned to use is, "I feel confused." This helps you say that your feelings are mixed or hard to understand. When someone asks you how you feel and you don't have a clear answer, saying "I feel confused" is honest and simple. For example, you might say, "After the meeting, I felt confused because I didn't understand everything," or "I feel confused about my next steps." This phrase helps others understand that you're still figuring things out, inside your mind and heart. Karim also discovered the phrase, "I'm still processing," is very helpful when you're dealing with strong or complex emotions. It means that you're taking time to think about and understand your feelings before you can explain them clearly. For instance, after his exam, Karim might say, "I'm still processing how I feel about it." This phrase is common in English, when people want to express that they need more time to sort out their emotions, and it shows self-awareness and patience with yourself. It's important to remember that feeling uncertain is a natural part of being human, and it's especially normal when you're learning a new language and adapting to new cultures. Sometimes your mind and heart are full of thoughts and feelings that are hard to put into words, and that's okay. Using these phrases gives you a way to express this uncertainty without feeling stuck or silent. You might find yourself in situations where you have mixed emotions too. Maybe you're excited about a new opportunity, but nervous about the challenges. Or you're happy to meet new people, but sad to leave your family. In these moments, using phrases like, "I'm not sure," "I feel confused," and "I'm still processing" helps you express this complexity clearly and honestly. Karim's story is a reminder that feelings don't have to be perfectly clear to be real and important. When you say, "I don't know how I feel," you're opening a door to deeper conversations and self-discovery. It shows courage to be honest about uncertainty, because it means you're paying attention to your emotions instead of ignoring them. As you practice these phrases, try to notice moments when you feel unsure or mixed up inside. You can say to yourself, "I'm not sure," or "I feel confused," and see how it feels to express that out loud. It might feel strange at first because we often want to have clear answers, but it's a powerful step in learning to communicate more honestly in English. Also, don't worry about using long or complicated sentences. Short and simple is better when you're talking about feelings, especially uncertainty. Saying "I'm still processing" is more than enough to show you're thoughtful and reflective. When you listen to native speakers, you might hear them use these phrases all the time because uncertainty is a part of everyday life. People often don't have clear answers right away, and English allows you to express that naturally without feeling awkward or embarrassed. Karim found that after sharing his uncertainty with friends, he felt more connected and supported. People appreciated his honesty, and it helped him build stronger friendships. This is another reason why learning to express feelings, even uncertain ones, is so valuable. So if you ever feel unsure about your emotions or about something that happened, try using these phrases. You don't have to pretend to feel something you don't or to have everything figured out. Being real about uncertainty is part of growing in English and in life. Keep practicing these expressions in your daily conversations. You can even write them down in your feelings journal and note when you use them or heard others use them. This will help your brain remember and feel comfortable with these important tools. Remember, the goal is communication, not perfection. Expressing uncertainty honestly helps you be understood and build trust with others. And every time you do it, you take one more step toward fluency that feels natural and true to who you are. Sometimes, when our feelings are very strong or complicated, it can be really hard to find the right words in English. I want you to know that this is completely normal and something everyone experiences, no matter what language they speak. I've met so many learners who tell me that even though they know some words, when emotions take over, their minds go blank, and the words just don't come out the way they want. But here's the truth. Communication isn't only about words. It's about how you use your voice, your face, and your body to show what you feel. Today, I want to talk about how you can use body language and tone together with simple words to express yourself clearly, even when the perfect phrase is hard to find. First, let's think about tone of voice. How you say something is just as important as what you say. For example, imagine you say, "I'm okay," but your voice sounds quiet or shaky. That tone tells a different story than if you said the same phrase loudly and confidently. In English, people pay attention to this kind of nonverbal information all the time. Tone can show if you're happy, sad, nervous, or even angry, even if your words don't explain it fully. So practicing different tones with simple sentences can make a big difference. Try saying "I'm tired" with a tired voice, or "I'm excited" with a bright, lively tone. This makes your feelings clearer to others, and it's easier for you to express yourself. Next, let's talk about body language. This means the movements and gestures your body makes while you're talking. Sometimes we don't realize how much our body helps us communicate. If you shrug your shoulders while saying "I don't know," it shows uncertainty. If you smile when you say "I'm happy," that smile makes your words feel real. Or if you cross your arms and look away while saying "I'm frustrated," people understand your feeling even more deeply. In many cultures, body language is a powerful part of how people understand each other, and English speakers pay attention to it just as much as to the words. Facial expressions are a special part of body language because they are very visible and strong signals of emotion. Think about how your face changes when you're surprised, scared, or angry. Even if you don't have the exact words, raising your eyebrows, frowning, or smiling can tell people what you feel. So, when you don't know the right words, try focusing on your face to express your emotions. It makes your communication more natural and easier to understand. Using body language and tone together with simple words is a great way to communicate when you feel stuck. Imagine Marta from Warsaw, whom I mentioned earlier. She often felt overwhelmed at work, but sometimes she didn't have the English words to explain it. Instead, she would say, "I'm tired" softly and rub her forehead. Her colleagues noticed and understood that she was feeling stressed, even though her words were simple. This shows how powerful combining these elements can be. Another example is David from Berlin, who moved to New York. He felt frustrated with small things like long lines and confusing instructions. When he said, "This is confusing," he often looked around with a puzzled face and shrugged his shoulders. Even if his words were short, his body language helped his new friends understand his feelings better and made conversation smoother. So how can you practice this at home? Start by paying attention to your own feelings when you speak English. When you say a sentence, notice your tone. Is your voice matching how you feel? Then look in the mirror and see what your face and body are doing. Are they showing your emotions clearly? Try practicing with simple sentences like "I'm happy," "I'm nervous," or "I'm confused," and change your tone and gestures to match each feeling. This practice will help you become more confident and natural. You can also watch English movies or TV shows and pay close attention to how actors use tone and body language. Notice how they express sadness, excitement, anger, or confusion without saying too much. Try to imitate them, not only the words, but how they say them. This will train your brain to connect feelings with expressions, making it easier to communicate in real life. One important thing I want to remind you is that it's okay to feel stuck sometimes. It doesn't mean you're failing or that your English is not good enough. Feelings are complex, and learning to express them in a new language is a big challenge. Using body language and tone is a smart way to support your words and keep conversations flowing smoothly. Also, when you combine these nonverbal signals with simple sentences, you create a fuller picture for the listener. You don't need long or complicated sentences to be understood. Sometimes a short phrase plus a meaningful look or gesture says more than a long explanation. This is especially useful when you're tired or nervous because it reduces the pressure to find perfect words. Remember, communication is a bridge between you and others. Your goal is to share your feelings and ideas, not to be perfect. So use all the tools you have, words, tone, body language, and facial expressions, to connect with people and make your English feel more alive and real. Next time you feel stuck, searching for the right words, try to slow down and think about how your voice sounds and what your body is doing. You might find it easier than you expected to express yourself. And when you listen to others, pay attention to their tone and gestures too. This will help you understand their feelings better and improve your own English naturally. Finally, I encourage you to practice this with friends, family, or even by yourself. Try saying different feelings with matching body language and tone. You can even record yourself and watch it later to see what works best. The more you practice, the more confident and natural you will feel in expressing your emotions in English, even when words are hard to find. Right now, I want to invite you to take a moment with me to think about how you're feeling at this very second. Maybe you're sitting quietly, maybe you're busy, or maybe you're somewhere new. Whatever the moment is, pause and ask yourself, how do I feel? It might be easy, or it might feel strange to focus on your emotions in English, but this simple step is powerful. Speaking about your feelings, even with just one sentence, helps you practice real, natural English. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest and present. Let's try this together. Think of one sentence in English that describes your current feeling. Maybe it's, I feel calm, or I'm a little tired, or even, I'm excited to learn. These sentences don't have to be complicated or long. What matters is that you express yourself. Using simple words to talk about your feelings is exactly the kind of practice that builds confidence and fluency. It connects your heart with your language skills. When you say how you feel, you make English personal and meaningful. I remember when I first started learning new languages. Talking about feelings was one of the hardest parts because it felt so vulnerable. But little by little, I learned that expressing feelings, even with simple sentences, helped me open up conversations and connect with others. When you say, I'm happy or I feel nervous, you invite the person you're speaking with to understand you better. You create a space for connection, which is the heart of communication. If you want, you can say your sentence out loud right now. Don't worry about grammar or pronunciation at first. The goal is to practice putting your feelings into words. Maybe record yourself or say it to a friend. The more you do this, the easier it becomes to talk about emotions naturally and comfortably. And every time you practice, you're training your brain to think in English, which is the key to fluency. Also, try to notice how you feel throughout the day. When something happens, a good moment or a challenging one, try to name the feeling in English. If you feel proud after finishing a task, say, I feel proud. If something worries you, say, I feel worried. These small daily moments of reflection and expression help you build your emotional vocabulary and make English part of your real life. Another way to practice is to write your feelings in a journal. You don't have to write long sentences. Even a short phrase works. Writing helps you slow down and think carefully about how to describe your emotions. Over time, you'll see your vocabulary grow, and you'll feel more confident expressing yourself both in speaking and writing. Remember that feelings are natural and important. When you allow yourself to express them in English, you're not just practicing words, you're sharing a part of who you are. That's a powerful step in any language journey. Your feelings make your English real and alive. And the more you speak about them, the more fluent and natural your English will become. So here's my gentle challenge for you today. Say one sentence in English about how you feel right now. It could be simple, honest, and true. This action connects everything we've talked about and brings your learning into the present moment. Every time you express your feelings, you're not just practicing English. You're practicing connection, understanding, and real communication. Keep this practice going. Notice your feelings, put them into words, and say them out loud. It doesn't have to be perfect. but it has to be real. Your journey to fluency isn't about perfect grammar or fancy words. It's about speaking from your heart, being understood, and growing every day. Take this moment now and give yourself permission to express one feeling in English. Whether it's I'm happy, I'm tired, or I feel curious, say it clearly. Let your voice carry your feeling. This is how you make English your own. This is how you turn learning into living. And remember, every small step like this brings you closer to fluency. Every time you speak about your feelings, you strengthen your ability to communicate openly and honestly. That's what true language mastery looks like. So take a deep breath, listen to yourself, and say how you feel. You're doing great.